All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 3-3 Washington Commanders. Just a huge bounce back victory this past weekend against the Atlanta Falcons, who, might I add, have a very, very talented defense, as we saw yesterday. 24-16 on the road victory after a 3-game losing streak. You know, that Thursday night football, getting embarrassed by the Chicago Bears. You can tell this team is improving. First things first, Sam Howell specifically, you can tell the guy's just growing as a player. Now, no, this was not a pretty game. No, this certainly was not a sexy win, but especially after losing the last 3, a win is a win. Just in general, a win is a win. They lost the possession battle 36 to just 23 minutes. You know, third down efficiency, 2 of 10. They only had a total of 193 yards. They gave up 402 yards. But man, that defense stepped up. The offense took advantage of the Falcons' mistakes at enough times in the game. Like I said, this wasn't a pretty game. It just really wasn't. But the defense, it certainly was a pretty defensive game. But I like what I see. I just genuinely like what I see. And for Washington specifically as a team here, you're under new ownership. It's just kind of, you're trying to create that new culture, right? You're trying to set the precedent here. And I just like the resiliency of Washington losing 3 straight games, going up against a difficult-ass defense, and winning 24-16. I think the defense looked phenomenal. I think it was really only a matter of time before the defense had a game like this. I think this is what we'll see, kind of a good indication of, who the Washington's defense really is. I think they get a bad rep for that, Buffalo Bills game, et cetera, et cetera. Things are improving. All right, specifically with Mr. Sam Howell. Now, this certainly was a game that you had to watch. Washington in the fourth quarter, they did not score points. Sam Howell took a couple of bad sacks. They were not able to rush the ball, just 22 rushes for only 72 yards, averaging 3.3 yards per carry. But Sam Howell, at the end of the day, did what I needed him to do. Now, before we get any further into tonight's video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I post at least one Commanders video every single week. So Washington fans, if you could try and get this video to 100 likes, it would mean the absolute world to me. We've talked about it on this channel all the freaking time, especially considering where they drafted Sam Howell. All I want to know for Washington, because I love the new, I just love the overall change that we're seeing with the eyes this year, but specifically with Sam Howell and the quarterback position, I just genuinely want to know, and I think we'll know by Thanksgiving, is Sam Howell my guy? And I think more likely than not, he is. I think the dude's a stud. I think he was an absolute beast at North Carolina. I think he's got a great work ethic. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder considering where he was drafted. I think Washington is the perfect spot for him. And at the end of the day, he made the throws that he needed to make. Yes, we want to see Washington's offense close out games. Yes, we want to see more consistency, both offensively and defensively. But keep in mind, this is a Washington team that, people just kind of forgot about him. People kind of just wrote him off, whether it was the ownership, whether it was, the coaching staff, whatever it is, people just kind of write off the Washington Commanders. But if you're watching these games, and especially if you're a Washington Commanders fan, you can kind of see it. You can see things getting better, certainly at a week-to-week basis. We'll kind of forget about that Buffalo game. We'll kind of forget about that Chicago game. You're going to go through growing pains. These are just things that are going to happen. But there's a lot to be enjoyed about. We'll talk about that defense in just a couple of minutes. But Sam Howell, 14-23, only 151 yards, all right? Still throwing for over 250 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, and more importantly, 0 interceptions. Now, talking about that rushing attack, this is now, Brian Robinson Jr., we know the dude's a dog. He did a great job in the receiving game. He still made a couple of big-time runs, only 10 carries, only 31 yards, averaging just 3.1 yards per carry. Something to keep in mind, but not really. I think all Washington fans would agree that Brian Robinson Jr. has a very bright future, and I think he has a very bright future with Washington. It's just been, the last 3 games hasn't been perfect. Keep in mind, Philadelphia's defense is insane. The Chicago Bears script kind of was thrown out the window immediately, and Atlanta Falcons, man, people don't really realize it right now because of, I guess, the inconsistent young play by Desmond Ritter, their defense is extremely legit. And Washington fans and any team that plays Atlanta, like I'll take it from a Green Bay fan, you know, once you play them, you kind of realize like, damn, that's a really talented defense. I love a lot of the moves they made. So the running game wasn't there. The running game in general for Washington hasn't been great. A lot of that has to do with the offensive line play. But I think for like the first time this season, I actually liked the offensive line play. Yes, Sam Howell did take 5 sacks. Yes, there were many of those plays where he needs to get rid of the ball quicker. But we know these are things that Sam Howell needs to work on and has been working on and has been improving. One thing I absolutely loved was Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry, 6 catches, 81 yards, along at 22. Curtis Samuel also stepping up, four receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. And then, like we said, Brian Robinson Jr. making 2 big-time plays receiving. He had 2 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown. Now, just some negatives I'm feeling with Washington's offense right now in the receiving game are, I love Logan Thomas. I absolutely love him. It's a point of emphasis. It's a point of need, whether it's going to be at the trade deadline, whether it's going to be at the end of the offseason, which I think is more likely. I want to see an upgrade at the tight end position. Is Logan Thomas perfectly fine, perfectly capable? Yes. But I think a good example would be the Detroit Lions. They traded away TJ Hawkinson at the deadline last year. They went kind of like a tight end by committee with 3 different tight ends, and they were all doing their job. But as you can see here with Sam Laporta, if you're keeping up with the Lions, it makes a huge ass deal. It's a huge ass difference. So I think they're going to target that more so in the draft or free agency this upcoming offseason. But it is, something I'm not a huge fan of, along with Jahan Dotson. The drops are not looking good. He was only targeted 1 time. It was a really bad drop. Just in general, we have yet to see Jahan Dotson break out this season. Here's like an unideal statistic. It's players with 5+ end zone targets this season, but only 1 or less touchdown. You've got Jahan Dotson there with 5 end zone targets and only 1 touchdown. As Ron Rivera said, I think it's just going to be a matter of time. I do. If you are a Washington fan, if you're a Penn State fan, we know Jahan Dotson has plenty of talent, and it's just a matter of time. But it is, one of the unideal things with this Washington offense. Now, defensively, they forced 3 interceptions. I absolutely loved it. You had Jamin Davis. Beautiful. I think the dude is a rising stud in this league. Kendall Fuller with an interception. Defensively, just in general, guys like Cameron Curl. I remember talking about Cameron Curl last year in my Washington Commanders video saying, keep an eye on this dude. He's had a very successful, brief NFL career, and we're only continuing to see it. He had some huge hits. He finished the game with 11 tackles. He had some critical pass deflections, pass breakdowns. He had some huge hits. I love his intensity. I also love my man Cody Barton. He had like 14 total tackles. Yes, there are some mistakes, particularly the roughing the passer. But in general, man, the Washington defense really came through today. Or yesterday. They just really came through, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm starting to lick my chops here at the upcoming schedule. You've got the New York Giants, who are suffering and struggling. You do have Philadelphia, who also, they just lost to the Jets. They're, as we saw a couple of weeks ago, Washington can certainly beat Philadelphia. Then you've got the Patriots, then you've got the Seahawks, then you've got the Giants. If they go even 3-2 on that pace, you're sitting at 6-5, 11 games in. I think every Washington fan would take that. So no, it's not perfect. No, it's not always going to be pretty, but this is an improving football team. All right. That's it for today, man. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. If you guys want more Commanders videos, let me know down below. But more importantly, how are you feeling about this Washington team sitting at 3-3, about a third of the way through the regular season? Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next time.